And now it's time for a Shamewell.
What was I thinking? Why did I say he had nice ankles?
She was stood behind me the whole time.
I didn't know he's only got one hand.
I was signed in on her Gmail.
John's Shamewell.
Every week I read out a tale of shame which has been bugging a listener for months, years, many times. These are decades old, and this is an attempt for you to be unburdened of your unwarranted shame. So join me in the well as I read this week's entry. Dear John, in 2009 I started a job in a large open-plan office where I quickly got into smiling terms with a guy I had to walk by to get to my desk. I won't lie, I fancied him a bit and was quite pleased when we eventually found ourselves in the kitchen together and had a chat. That chat turned into more regular chats, and before long we were getting mid-morning and mid-afternoon coffees together every day. Standing side by side at the coffee machine, it was difficult not to notice that I was significantly taller than him. At 5'11", I'm quite used to being taller or as tall as most, and at around 5'1" or 2", I presumed he was well used to the opposite. It didn't bother me at all, and it didn't seem to bother him. He was confident, handsome, charming, and, added bonus, French, which made him very sexy. By the time the annual office party arrived, I was hoping to convert chatting to snogging. We flirted all evening, and with some Dutch courage inside me, I asked him why he'd never asked me out. He pointed out that I hadn't asked him out either, which was fair, then admitted it was because I was so much taller than him, and he'd assumed I wouldn't be interested. I hammered home my lack of concern about our height difference, and then fireworks were announced. Arm in arm, we stumbled outside with our colleagues, snogging very much on the agenda. 3, 2, 1. The fireworks exploded. Everyone behaved like it was New Year's Eve, cheering, hugging, and ooh-ahhing at the sky. It should have been the perfect moment for that kiss, but, swept up in the excitement, I did something completely unfathomable. I turned to the guy who had just told me he was self-conscious about being shorter than me, picked him up and swung him in a circle like a 6-year-old. I have absolutely no idea what possessed me to do this. The second his feet were back on the ground, I spluttered an apology, but he looked at me with contempt, barged his way through the crowd and left the party. I tried to apologise the next day, but the damage was done. He ignored me and wouldn't reply to my emails and was well within his rights to do so. It became so excruciating that I applied for a job in another department, and our paths rarely crossed once I'd moved to a different floor. To this day, I feel sick every time I think about it. I'm so sorry for how I must have made him feel. John, I'm not sure it's possible to rid me of this shame, but at the very least, I have learnt from it.
Oh. I did not see that coming. I thought she was going to say that she loved him.
Or he.
Yeah.
I sort of read it and didn't get why that would be such a bad thing to do, but then I put myself in the position of the shorter person.
Of the swingy.
I mean, you should always ask before swinging someone, especially an adult.
Oh my gosh. As someone who swings people quite often.
Yeah.
The idea of doing that unannounced to an adult in front of all of his colleagues.
Yeah.
It would look absolutely nuts.
Not a cool look. But then the problem is in this sort of in the iconography of romance.
Yeah.
A man picking up a woman and sort of swinging her with joy is, I can imagine that happening in a film in the 50s.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just not cool to pick someone up and swing them.
How are you two picturing the swinging? Because for some reason, because at the moment I swing Lila from her hands.
Yeah. Oh no,
that's how I'm picturing. Like really wide.
Yeah. No, I'm imagining armpits.
Yeah, I reckon it's like an embrace, and as the swinger turns, the legs fly out with momentum.
Yeah.
To be honest, email, it's very, very funny from your perspective. I can imagine it would be perhaps embarrassing and uncool from the other person's perspective, but it's an act of joy, even though it's turned into an act which has embarrassed them.
The other thing that I've noticed, as someone who swings people, because I swing my daughter all the time, she loves it, he'd have been dizzy at the end of it. And being dizzy as an adult is horrible.
Yeah.
It is.
Kids love being dizzy. I just don't understand it.
It's they're drunk.
Yeah, but if I go on a roundabout after
maybe I should just start getting dizzy every night.
After 3 rotations of a roundabout, I'm like, oh, this has got to stop, or I get very moody if I'm dizzy. But kids absolutely love it.
So if I went out into the garden and just sort of at a medium pace span round, so I never got like completely dizzy, but it just gave me sort of a nice numbing high. Okay, interesting. I'll try that.
Yeah, great. Just make yourself dizzy for the rest of your life, and then that's that. You can die unbored.
If you have a shame well, we love them so much. Do send them to Elis and John at bbc.co.uk.